There's a related question, which is how we come up with explanations for how the world works. I know they're connected, but they're not exactly the same. So can you kind of spell out the difference between stories and explanatory narratives?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I think about them is that both stories and explanations can be answers to why questions. And in that sense, they're kind of similar. But I think about them as being on two ends of a continuum. So if you think about what makes a good story, as we were just discussing, a good story has a temporal structure. It involves lots of concrete details about what happened. A good explanation, on the other hand, especially if you think about something like a good scientific explanation, tends to appeal to much more abstract generalizations. So in the case of something like science, often when you give an explanation, you appeal to something like a general law of physics or some sort of generalization from that science to explain a particular case. And so that seems very different, right? On the story side, we have this temporally structured sequence of very concrete details. On the explanation side, we're abstracting as much as we can. I think of these as serving different but related cognitive functions. On the story side, you can put yourself in somebody's shoes, see it from their perspective, create a mental image, and that has all sorts of advantages. On the sort of explanation side, where you're working more abstractly, you're learning something that you can generalize to new cases. Right? When you relate something to like an abstract pattern or a law, you're not just learning about the specific case you're explaining, you're learning something that's going to tell you very broadly about lots of things in the world. So both of these are super useful cognitive activities. And what happens is that in everyday situations, somebody asks you something like, why were you late to work? And you do some blend of the two, right? You might say something like traffic. And we all know that there's this sadly reliable generalization in the world where traffic can make you late. But they don't just tell you traffic, right? They tell you that they were so tired and they spilled their coffee and their child complained about such and such, right? You also get the story. Right? So I think really one of the things that's really powerful about explanations and stories in human cognition is that we can so flexibly combine them.